That was weird.
Yeah, that was weird. I was just sitting here. I was like, wow.
So I called you and it rang forever. And then you're like, hey, ready when you are. And so I called you and it's like, Dustin's not online. And then I closed it and your thing was online. I was like, yes, he is. Don't fucking lie to me. I'm already rolling.
All right.
Are you?
No.
Well.
Now I is.
Anyway. All right. Well, hi, Dustin. Hello. Oh, sorry. Hi.
What?
I said hi, Dustin, and you didn't answer. I was like, this is going great. I looked
this is
up.
going swimmingly.
You're fixing your headphones.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thanks everybody for bearing with us last week. I threw out an oldie last week, the Gillian Flynn episode, Gillian Flynn, whichever it is. And I realized that we have, and I knew this, from going back in the last time I was logging episodes, which hasn't been for a couple of years now. I need to get back on that. But I noticed that there are a certain amount of our shows that are almost timeless because they are completely subject based and they're not either news or film review based.
Sure.
They're just we're just talking about a thing. And so I said, if I were to group this into a subgroup, it would be like our lectures, our HooperCast University courses, our master classes.
Yep. Yes.
So then I put them behind a paywall. I'm just kidding.
You should have.
I had business sense for a second, and I was like, no,
I can't do that.
So anyway, I realized I should probably mark those so I can go back, and next time we don't have a show for people, I can grab something that will be interesting to listen to a second time.
Right. Sure.
So anyway, so that was the Gillian Flynn episode. Again, hope people enjoy that if they didn't hear it the first time, or maybe they did and they were like, I'm hungry for more.
I'll just listen to it again.
Christmas came early and it was the Gillian Flynn episode.
A rerun.
So this week is going to be this episode. So I marked these spots on the calendar to do catch up shows and we almost never do them because we either have so much stuff already or something happens. I don't know. So last week, it was my fault that we didn't record. I was out. But I wanted to, I realized there was a couple things that had happened that I wanted to just catch up on.
Sure.
Essentially, pop culture adjacent, and they all oddly, now, and once I stacked them, I realized they all sort of touch on the idea of death.
No.
Up first, James Earl Jones has died.
No.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So we're recording this on September 10th. So so James Earl Jones just passed away. He was 93. No cause of death was shared from his family. And so, of course, there's just been a big outpouring of, memes and all, condolences and, Mark Hamill, stuff that cynically stuff that I wonder if people just wrote years ago and then saved.
Sure. Right.
In a file called When James Earl Jones Dies.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I think Mark Hamill said R.I.P. Dad or something like that.
Yeah.
He should have written, "That's not true. That's impossible."
That's not true. That's impossible. That is the better retort.
Yes, it is. But life's unfair. So
it's true. It's true. Yeah, man. I guess to a lot of people, he is Darth Vader and just always will be that character.
Yeah.
To me, yes, he's Darth Vader for sure. But I don't know. To me, he's Mufasa and he's Old Man Myrtle from The Sandlot. Like, you know, he is Darth Vader, but like, of those three things, I like Star Wars the least. Sorry, fanboys.
Well, and of those three things, we have not heard an AI generated performance of Mr. Myrtle or Mufasa.
True. Did you hear those rumors? I don't know if this has been substantiated, but there were those rumors, I don't know, a year or two ago. I guess it was after the Obi-Wan Kenobi show that Disney pulled him in and got him to record a ton of dialogue in like different inflections and different everything so that they can AI him for years to come.
I remember hearing that they had paid him for his voice likeness or something. Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but if it is,
yeah. Well, imagine how valuable that is to them. But it's so sad that it's like you can't get anyone else to be Darth Vader, anybody else. Like,
also, Vader's dead.
I know. But his profitability isn't.
That's arguable at this point.
This got brought up on the radio this morning, and I was glad someone said it. It was like Field of Dreams, you know, Terrence Mann, like he's a big part of why that movie's so good.
Yep.
And I mean, he's in a ton of things. I mean, Coming to America, a lot of people love him in that film, and but yeah, so like it's weird. In the same way it can be coincidental about any famous person who's been in good movies and so is often viewed as recently as their death. I told you I've been like watching The Sandlot every day for the last couple of months because that's all Riley wants to watch. And so I'm hearing Mr. Myrtle talk like twice a day. Yeah. Coincidentally, last weekend before that, I watched The Empire Strikes Back with my kids.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so all of this was just but like, you don't think about it. You're just like, is James Earl Jones being awesome? And you don't think like, oh, that guy's 93. The last time I thought about how old he was when he showed up in some commercial. And then of course they show a picture of him and you remember like, oh, that's right. He's an elderly person who's going to die soon. And so now of course he's gone.
Yep.
And I don't really have, this isn't going to be one of those things where I go, you know, he was my first film. I don't have sentimentality attached to James Earl Jones any more than any other person does. Which is to say a lot because we all love James Earl Jones. I can't think of one person who thought that he was like a hack, you know, or
it's weird. There is a universal love for James Earl Jones in a way that there's not for most actors.
Exactly.
You'll always find the one naysayer who's like, yeah, he's not that good. Yeah. But I've not heard a single person say that about James Earl Jones. Yeah, James Earl Jones is overrated. They're all like, well, yeah, he's a legend.
He's pretty awesome. Yeah. It's like
pretty cool.
It's a generally accepted fact like gravity. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like, best voice ever goes to.
Yeah. Yeah. More people believe the earth is flat than hate James Earl Jones.
That is a fact.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. That is a fact.
Anyway, rest in peace, James Earl Jones. I just wanted to acknowledge it since it happened. And that's what we do. When things happen, we say they're true. Okay, on the subject, continuing. So have you been privy to all this Linkin Park stuff?
I mean, I know just a little bit about it. Sure.
Do you like Linkin Park? Like as a band, do you like their music?
I've never cared for their music.
Well, I'll have to carry this one then. I love Linkin Park.
Okay.
I love Linkin Park. I've always been just from like the general awareness of them in like high school and college, and then to when YouTube became prevalent and people started like doing vocal analysis and stuff, I got interested in a ton of bands, but like Linkin Park's always been one of those bands I've been very technically interested in. I don't have an attachment to them the way that some of their fan base does, where it's like, there's people who have like, you know you can be a fan of some bands and like they're fan, like I love Taylor Swift too. I know you're as detached from her music as you are of Linkin Park's, but like, I like Taylor Swift's music generally. I like her. I like her music. I don't consider myself the same as her fan base, who have like a very emotional attachment to her songwriting, or those who have a very personal attachment to really any band's songwriting, because I just don't attach my life to that art form as much as I do probably movies.
Sure.
You know, and so there's movie people and there's music people, and I'm not a music person in that way.
Yeah.
But you know, in 2017, when Chester Bennington committed suicide, that was sad and shocking, and you know, for a lot of, you know, obvious reasons. And then I was sort of always like, oh, well, I wonder if the band will come back. Maybe they won't. And then like a couple of years ago, there started to be like whispers. And like, there was like a rumor that they would come back with a female vocalist. And so I was like, I remember saying like, I think that'd be cool. Like there's really, I'm sure there's plenty of singers who can sing with the same technique as Chester Bennington, but maybe that's not what you should do. Maybe you should kind of go in a different direction. And I thought it'd be awesome. And then they put down this countdown clock and they did this live stream, and then they debuted their new lead vocalist, Emily Armstrong, who is also the singer of this band, Dead Sarah, and basically plucked her out of relative obscurity for most of us, and she's their lead singer, and she sang their new song. I love their new song. She sang a bunch of the old hits and on this live stream, and there was a mixed reaction. And at first it was just people who couldn't accept that the band was going to move on without a dead person, without Chester, who was deceased. And so for a couple days, it was just that. It was just people who thought the band really had no right to continue, even though most of their, all but one of their members were alive and wanted to make music. And the Chester wasn't even a founding member of the band. He was picked up later. So that was a whole thing. And then it came out that someone, so like people like the Mars Volta, which a band I forgot about until this controversy, they're like one of their members, one of his wife was one of the Danny Masterson accusers. And he was like, are you going to ignore me, Sarah? Like, did you forget how you told my wife to be quiet or blah, 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 whatever. Pretty much like it came to be known that Emily Armstrong was present at one of the early hearings for Danny's trial. She didn't testify, I don't believe. She was just there as a base level show of support with many other people because she was a Scientologist. And so she basically had to come out and address that. And she said, I was there to show support. Basically, once I learned all the things that I learned, I was horrified and I withdrew and all that stuff. And anyway, so it's one of those things that's playing out right now in real time. And so people are trying to decide whether or not they even want to give this person a chance, and the band a chance or what. And it's one of those things where I look at it and I'm like, how much do we listen to the fans? It's like, how do you say, hey, we love you, but this isn't up to you, like,
shut up.
Shut the fuck up. And so most recently, Chester Bennington's son has come out and been like, Mike Shinoda is trying to erase my father's legacy, has been quite, and it's like, okay, like it's just it's ridiculous. And it's like, you want to sort of remind people that like, just because as if his relative being against it means it can't happen. Like, oh, well, his son's the king, he's in charge. people pointed out like Chester chose to end his life, and I don't think he would have wanted the band to not make music just because he wasn't there. That's not the kind of person he was. That's and again, it's Mike's band. Mike has the right to move on, and it's been 7 years. Like it's been plenty long enough, and they even went in a different direction, and it's just it's nuts.
Yeah,
so.
it's an odd thing. Like obviously, I have no connection to this band, but like it is an odd thing when you lose a pivotal member of a band, whether that band can continue, right? Like, can Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, after Tom passes away, can the Heartbreakers do anything else? And the answer is, well, yeah, I mean, they should be able to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the same is true for any band. Just because you lose one member doesn't mean that the others now have to not do anything. Now, you can always point to Dave Grohl as a chief example of this and say, okay, well, then make a new band.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Don't put it under the same label. And I think had the same members of Linkin Park formed a new band name with this new person, they would have garnered all the goodwill of the fans who supported them in the first place and said, oh, I'll check out their new project under this new name because it won't affect the legacy of what came before. But then the question is that fair? Can the band members, are the band members now barred from using the name they've used for years?
Yeah.
Or not? And like, it's a weird thing and there's not a clear-cut answer. And I think that's where it just gets and stays murky because you want to do what's best for the fans, but you also want to do what's best for you and what's most creatively fulfilling. And honestly, the record label wants you to put out things under that name, and there's pressure to do it under that name because that's the name that sells. Fish Bath doesn't sell. So if you're like, hey, our new band is Fish Bath, it's not going to, there's no guarantees there. Even if you say, from the people of Linkin Park comes Fish Bath, it's not going to mean anything. So I think there's there's just no good answer to it.
In the years to come, it'll be one of those footnotes like there was pushback in the beginning and then everyone just moved on because something else happens that desperately needed their meaningless attention.
Also, it just feels so small. Like in the world today to be arguing about this, but I'm also like, but I know that if it were any other band that I did have attachment to, I would be one of the vocal ones. But on the outside, I look at it and go, I just seem so small, guys.
Yeah, it's relatively minor.
Remember when Queen started traveling with Adam Lambert?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brian May and Roger Taylor can still make music.
Yeah.
Ooh, fancy that.
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, I agree. I don't know, and I don't know what else she's supposed to do. It's just like it's really not fair to her. Like I understand like the people who are like the band shouldn't be moving on, but some people are like she'll never beat Chester, and it's like okay, like all right, you're. Again, my biggest pet peeve is always like you assume that they are trying to do this. You assume that that's what they're doing. Like, and you assume that is of utmost importance is not replacing Chester. And it's like, well, in your definition of replacing him, the only way the band can move forward is like these people would prefer for them to write new music, AI Chester's voice, and release that as music. These people would rather hear a computer sing as Chester than them just get a new singer.
Yeah,
and make new music. And it's like that's way more heinous, Yeah,
totally.
It's like what do you want to do? Like there's plenty of great music. You go on Spotify, it's not like they redubbed the old songs. Right. Emily's version of, yeah. It's not like you can't go listen to Bleed It Out with Chester Bennington singing. So
sure.
Yeah, my only barometer for whether or not I accept this is can she sing the songs, and they change the key and she sings it and it's fine. And other than I have like minor critiques of the live stream, but that's a live stream, and I'm sure she was pretty fucking nervous and she still crushed it. And the studio track sounds great. So
yeah,
I like it. I'm excited to hear more. I would love hearing them do some studio covers of the old songs or not. You know, really no reason to do that. That's probably a little more, you know, maybe not do that kind of thing. Just sing them in concert.
Right.
But yeah, I'm cool with it. And I hate to see someone who, I mean, this is a big deal for her. It's like, wow, shit, you want to be the lead singer of Linkin Park? Yes.
Yeah, right.
You know, that's an honor. And
right. And it comes with a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressure. And I think anybody who takes that position would have been a fool to say, like, I will be universally loved. She knew what she was in for.
Exactly. I kept thinking, you know, she's a pro. Like, she knows how to deal with this, and she probably anticipated, you know. And on the Scientology front, like the first song, The Emptiness Machine, if you actually, I'm going to be that guy now. If you actually look at the lyrics, it seems pretty clear that it, at least for her, had to have been about Scientology and about, you know, being brainwashed and, you know, all that kind of thing. You know, it's and that I read a whole subreddit that was like, well, I don't know, Mike wrote the song, so I don't think it's about Scientology. It's like, do you know how songwriting works? Like, it doesn't like if someone came in and was like, Mike essentially allowed Chester to put words to his feelings, and that is songwriting. Like, Mike wrote the songs, but they were Chester's songs in that sense. And they even had to come out and spell it out, like, good songs have to be as broadly appealing to as many people as possible. So it's they're not gonna say, you know, the Scientologists or Tom Cruise or whatever. They're not gonna say that, but like anyway. So
sure,
I read too. What happened? Here's why I'm fired up, Dustin. I read too much online discourse and I got upset.
Yep, that'll happen.
And that's what happened. So
that'll happen.
Speaking of AI, California passed a law requiring consent for AI digital replicas of dead performers.
Hey, it's a little too late.
Sure. So it's basically, what is this? AB 1836, supposed to be signed by the governor, some legislation that says you need to get consent. So
from whom? From the estate?
Well,
from the next of kin?
From the estates. So it won't stop it. And for a number of reasons, like, you know, the estate doesn't always have the, you know, the best intentions. Money. Yeah, exactly. But so SAG-AFTRA is like, this is a big win. And the article pointed out, here we go. Okay. I guess this lawyer is the one who's talking. Pointed to recent examples of AI used in filmmaking that were successful because producers secured the consent of estates in advance. So he was making the case, like, you can still do this if you get consent. You just need to get consent. And luckily, you know, in these big examples, they asked for consent. We just want to make that a law. Like, so in 2000, the late Oliver Reed, who died during the production of Gladiator, had his performance completed with AI. In 2015, Paul Walker was reanimated. In 2016, Peter Cushing was digitally recreated for Rogue One. 3 years after her death, an AI Carrie Fisher appeared as the digitally reanimated princess in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. You know, in each of these 4 instances, permission to use the voice and or likeness of these deceased performers was sought and obtained from the families or other representatives of their respective estates. I know of no reason why such consent cannot or should not continue to be required when recognizable deceased performers are asked to portray themselves after their deaths. I like the way it's worded, are asked to portray themselves after their deaths. I just think of an executive shouting at a coffin, like, excuse me, sir.
I have to ask you a question.
Will you come out here, please, and talk to me?
Yes.
Or like a Ouija board. Like David Zaslav is holding a seance. Like,
yes.
Mr. Earl Jones.
Can we use your voice? Oh, why? Oh, there's a yes.
Ooh. I think it's going to the $sign. There's not much to say about this because it's, it's whatever. But,
I have an opinion.
Okay.
Still shouldn't happen. This does not solve anything. To me, you should not be asking a family if they have. All right, let's back up. Let's put this in the position that I'm the performer.
Uh-huh.
There's no reason why I should have my likeness attached to something post-mortem, even if my grandchild, great-grandchild, great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchild wants to make money. This should not be happening. The reason for this is because those people, though they are related to me or may be related to me, do not have the same value system, structure, thought process that I have, and therefore cannot accurately predict whether I would have said yes to something or no to something.
Yeah.
And therefore, my name should not then be attached to something. My likeness should not then be attached to something that I cannot consent to, period. Even if I consented to it once before.
Exactly.
That does not constitute consent.
You're right.
If I consented to play Batman and in 47 years they want me to play Batman again, just because I consented to it one time doesn't mean I should be able to should be forced to consent to it again.
If my great-great-grandchildren decided that they would take money to allow a studio to pee on my corpse, even if I once in life consented to be peed on for money,
yes,
they still can't do that.
They still can't do that.
I've said too much.
Furthermore, they shouldn't do that, right? Like that's a should and shouldn't issue, an ought issue.
You're telling me.
my thought process on the whole thing is this is not a question we should be asking bereaved families for, right? Regardless of how recent the bereavement, it is inappropriate to go to the great-grandchildren of Humphrey Bogart and say, we want to make Casablanca 2. This is an abomination and should not be occurring because he cannot consent to that. Now, if the studio wants to make Casablanca 2 and it stars Paul Giamatti, great, that's fine. That's a different person.
Yeah.
He can consent to this. But Humphrey Bogart can't, and therefore his likeness should not be attached to something he can't consent to. This is across the board, right? So you remember those things like the deep fake commercials that Bruce Willis did before his diagnosis. It's like he was able to consent to that, but they now have that likeness and could produce more at any point. And all it takes is one greedy person in charge of the estate to besmirch the whole shebang. And now we've got 57 new Die Hard movies starring Bruce Willis. And he can't make those because here's the thing. Even if the family could accurately say, like, let's say that I wrote a note to my family and said, hey, if somebody comes up and says, I want to make another Superman movie, do it. And I had once played Superman. I'm Christopher Reeve. Hey, if they make another Superman movie, I want to be a part of it. If I wrote that note to my family and my family says, oh, cool, we have this note that says Christopher Reeve wants to make more Superman movies. Great. That's fine for you. But here's my problem as the consumer. Christopher Reeve did not make any choice in this film. So what right do we have to put his likeness on it, his name on it, or say this is a new performance by, which is what they will say.
Yeah.
And it is not a performance by him. He made no decisions, not even to be a part of it. And that is sketchy and altogether unartistic. It is the opposite of art. It is soulless, and it should not be supported in any way, shape, or form. That's where I'm at. It's the same thing. If Linkin Park wanted to put an AI Chester in a new song, this is sketchy and should not happen.
Right.
Why? Because just because the AI says he would sing it this way does not mean he would sing it that way.
Right.
Even if it sounded perfect and it was indistinguishable. Even if, and it's not, but even if you couldn't tell at all, it is not him making a single vocal choice. And so it cannot and should not be supported.
The one thing, it's good the legislation goes through, because at least it puts in writing somewhere that you need to get consent instead of you should get consent. Like, you are now required to, in California, unless the performer enshrined it in their will, which seems like, hey man, before you die, you should probably put this in your will, along with who gets your money and what you want done with your stuff. Your likeness, you should probably put something in there about that, and you write down, say, no one fucking has the right to use my voice or my face in anything ever.
Yep.
And that's it, period. My grandchildren can go fuck themselves. No one gets shit. Yep. This is gross. I hate it. And, literally not even over my dead body. And, the only thing I can think of is, like, I'm sure there are some performers who toward the end of life would still say, it's fine. I don't care, because sure, you want to get money, I'll be dead. Doesn't bother me. Sure. But that at least would be the person's choice, versus an assumption of their intentions. The only thing that still is ambiguous and is 100 years from now, if that person were still living, would they now consent to it? Even if they once did explicitly, legally, concerning post-mortem use of their likeness.
Well, this goes back to our James Earl Jones story. Did he consent to having his voice recorded to be used for future Star Wars purposes? If he did, this is not sketchy. Now, is it artistically sketchy? Yes, because he's still not making a choice.
Yeah.
But is the consent valid? Yes. Because here's the thing. Like, this is a weird digital version of this, but you are in essence utilizing the body of an individual with consent from somebody who owns their legal affairs, right? Their estate, their all of their holdings. That's what they're there for. Those people do not actually have the right to tell you what they can and cannot do with that person's body. And it's a digital version, but that's more or less what it is. We cannot have a system in which consent for one person is dictated by another person. That doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Unless the person who's consenting has authorized that person to make that specific consensual decision. And that's not what's happening here. Humphrey Bogart could not have foreseen this and made no decision to allow his estate holders decades down the line, generations down the line, to make any decisions for him. And that's the problem. So for me, I'm looking at it going, if the gray area is, I think this bill should say consent must be obtained by the specific party you are recreating, which means that consent must be received prior to death.
Yeah. Yes.
That's fine. It's still artistically unfine, but it is legally and now not ethically, morally unfine. Yeah. Like that part's outside.
It's not still cool, but it's no longer extra legal.
Yeah, it's not cool, but it's exactly. It's at least consensual.
Yeah,
and it is not consensual otherwise. And so you can say I got consent from somebody else, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's like it's to go back to my pee-pee example. It's the same as saying, like, yes, you can do this to me right now, and not saying you can do this to me whenever you want, whenever anyone offers you money. It's right. It's different. Like that consent.
Yes.
to change it further to a bedroom encounter, it's the same thing. There's mutual consent for something. That doesn't mean consent in perpetuity. That's not one and done. It is a contract that continues to be met with consent. I'm sorry that the way I'm representing this physically is putting my fingertip together.
Yes,
but you know what I'm trying to say. It's like we come together over and over again. Oh, that's goddamn it.
Each time with consent. Each time with consent. And that's the thing. And notice who's giving consent. It is the person involved. It is not that person's
descendant.
Anybody,
yeah.
Right. It's not their descendant. It's
their
not
lawyer.
It's not their lawyer. It's the person. And this is the truth. Like, that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, just like I said, it's a digital version, but we are utilizing the body of a deceased person to sell our film, to prop up our film, to tell the story of our film. And even though we're creating that body digitally, we're still utilizing that body.
I kind of hope the article points out this couple of these startup firms, and there's an audio firm, an AI audio firm named 11 Labs, that they recently reached deals with the estates of Judy Garland, James Dean, Laurence Olivier, Burt Reynolds to use voices to be used in AI created audio replicas. I remember the James Dean story.
Yep.
And maybe we'll get a Hooper 2.
Hooper 2. Okay.
I would watch a Hooper 2 with an AI Burt Reynolds.
AI Burt Reynolds.
Yeah. How do you?
It's about an AI stuntman.
Yeah, exactly. It's yeah. I can't even participate in the joke because it's such a horrible scenario.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got. Yeah. That's all I thought to talk about.
I have a think piece for you, but maybe we'll save it for the next one.
Okay. Yeah, let's do a think. We'll do another think piece.
Okay.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Stay alive.
Dun, 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 dun.
Don't fucking lie to me.